Good afternoon, Chris Mackowski from Emerging Civil War here at the Lee-Jackson Bivouac Site on the Chancellorsville battlefield. I know that this is typically a site that is associated with the evening of May 1st rather than a May 2nd site, but of course this is also the site of Lee and Jackson's last meeting on the morning of May 2nd. Just trying to share a couple spots in the battlefield with you here as we move through the anniversary. Give you a little kind of taste of some of my favorite spots. If we look behind me, here we can see the intersection of Furnace Road and the old Plank Road. From behind me is the direction where the 12th Corps, the Union 12th Corps, was falling back and then heading off in this direction. Let me get my camera in the right direction. Heading off in that direction after Joe Hooker gave that order in the late in the 1st, where he said fall back and consolidate around the Chancellorsville intersection. That's going to then allow Lee and Jackson to come into this intersection on the evening of May 1st and begin plotting out what becomes known as Jackson's flank attack. They're going to lay out their maps here in this clearing just off the side of the road. Because when they're out in the road, federal sharpshooters start taking pot shots at them, and so they kind of step aside and they spread out their maps, and by the light of the fire, they plot out this flanking maneuver. The next morning, Lee and Jackson will meet again here, and they'll ride up next to each other. They'll pass a few words that nobody says, and then Jackson will march his column down that road, Furnace Road. We were down that road a little earlier today, and then he'll head off into not only the Union flank, but infamy as he positions himself for that big attack that ultimately leads to his accidental wounding late on the 2nd of May. Excuse me. I really love this spot though, because that last meeting has become so enriched with iconography and mythology, and it's really a seminal moment in the birth of the lost cause as these two great chieftains get together and meet for one last time. Nobody overhears what they say, so that leaves that to the imagination. In 1869, Everett Julio painted the last meeting. Lee on Traveler, a light horse. Jackson on Little Sorrel, a dark horse with darkness behind him, figures of death overlooking his shoulder. Little Sorrel's head's down while Traveler's head is up. So it's a painting just rich in the symbolism. And from there on, that moment has been really a central part of this notion of Lee, the great noble warrior, Jackson, the martyr of the lost cause. And for some people, the war ends on May 10th, 1863, when Jackson finally passes away. So I love this spot. There are also things here that kind of commemorate that. There's that little granite marker in the back. It was erected by James Power Smith, a former member of Jackson's staff, in 1903, one of 10 monuments on the battlefields around this area. Also, if you look over my shoulder, there's one and then two cedar trees. These cedar trees are symbolic of Lee and Jackson. They were planted by the National Park Service staff here back in 37, excuse me. And there's actually a little plaque on the ground, I'll show it to you, that commemorates that. These cedars planted in October of 1937. Ralph Happel, the historian for the Park Service here, planted that at the time. So it's just an area rich in symbolism, rich in meaning, rich in significance, which at the time nobody knew. Jackson was getting ready to march off on what he thought would be a great mission. Does turn out to be a great mission, but it also leaves the Army of Northern Virginia very vulnerable, because after his flank attack, it's left leaderless until Jeb Stuart's able to come onto the scene. Meanwhile, Robert E. Lee over on this side of the battlefield, and in between those two separated wings of the Army is a big angry, wounded Union Army. So almost anything could happen, setting the stage for a tremendous battle on the morning of May 3rd. So delighted to have you out here with me as I'm exploring the battlefield. I'm Chris Mackowski for Emerging Civil War. Thanks for being with me.